Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is the final post-game pod of the regular season. We lose to LSU 37-17. It is full of disappointment, even with the fact that we were disappointed and had low expectations. We kind of got our hopes up from last week, and then we get dashed again. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
And, of course, the post-game is brought to us by Little Debbie Snack Cakes. They're bringing joy this Christmas season. Christmas tree cakes are out in stores going hot, but all the other great items are there as well. I encourage you to go out to your local store and stock up. You're going to need them to help that blood sugar. You got to keep that blood sugar up for warmth, You got to do that.
Got to help it from
the
my
cold season.
disdain for Sooner football.
Yeah, it's tough. It's bad. So let's just dive right in and just how, Lucas, you start us out on a scale of 1 to. How high does your scale go in bad?
I mean, it goes to 10.
Okay. I'd take it to 11. Ours go to 11.
Yeah, I can see that. Little spinal tap action. You turn the knob up to 11.
Yeah, ours go to 11. 11 higher.
Today was 11.
Today was higher.
It was
bad.
when we got 14-10, I was feeling pretty good. We knocked the quarterback out of the game.
Yeah.
For the moment, and we thought it was broken collarbone, maybe. He wouldn't come back. The backup dude looked horrific.
Yeah, he looked
the couple
very
passes
beatable.
he threw. We talked about it. We said, well, now that we've got the lead at 14-10, we just put another touchdown on the board, and that should be enough. We can win this thing 21-10, 28-10. Offense is moving the ball, and then we decide to kick off.
Why are we kicking it?
We kick it to the goal line and let the guy run it back for a touchdown.
Yeah, which we haven't done.
No.
And we did it repeatedly, and we did it in both directions, and their kicker kicked it deep out of the end zone in both directions. So I don't think it can be wind unless the wind died down.
Nope. Schmidt couldn't kick it far enough today, I guess. I don't know, maybe colder temperatures. Obviously, the ball doesn't go as far, but they didn't have a problem with it. And that was the turning point in the game, I feel like. And then Nussmeier came back in and throwing 40-yard bombs like nothing had happened.
Nothing happened.
Defense was stopping the run halfway decent, except on, if it's 3rd and 3, they're giving it up. And then you're giving up over the top plays, which we talked about, being a little worried about all season with our safeties playing up. And then they just torched us from there on.
Yeah, I think it was just signs of an incomplete game plan offensively, or at least I think a non-creative game plan, other than being creative and getting yourself out of what was working for you in the prior week, and then realizing you needed to do that. But then it's too little too late, and you're not making adjustments. And then defensively, it was kind of a bend and then break situation where whatever it was, be it emotions or they were hitting really good passes. Those were dimes, but there were several busted coverages or weak coverages. There was missed tackles. We noticed tackling seemed very weak really throughout the game. And so I just feel like the defense kind of folded a little bit. It doesn't take much to fold to a team that's got talent and athletes to give up points the way they did. And then when the offense is going to do what they do, the field position was poor most of the game, and we didn't do anything to help that out. I'm most disappointed in the offense, which is really the story of the season. They don't seem to be creative when they need to be. Then they get extra creative, like in the throwback from Bauer Sharp, who I don't understand. Everyone lauds his athletic ability. I see him on the sidelines catching one-handed 40-yard passes. The guy looks like he's never been on a football field before when he's out there and the lights come on. He has no awareness of what's going on the field. On that play, you're in field goal range. We can debate and argue about the call itself, probably a bad call. But if you're going to do it and it starts to get busted, you're not in desperation mode. Don't throw the ball up for grabs. What made you think it was a good idea? Throw it out of bounds or take the 5-yard loss. But it also comes back to like the coaching, game clock management, calling an early second half timeout rather than just take the 5-yard penalty. Just take the penalty. You might need that timeout. It's a close game. It doesn't make sense, some of the decisions like that they're making.
Well, we took our second timeout after the 3rd quarter to 4th quarter intermission.
Yeah.
No time runs off the clock. We take a timeout.
Because it looked like we were I never got a
Were we shorthanded?
definitiveness. I think we were shorthanded.
Probably, I don't know. And if it's shorthanded, it's just another knock.
As soon as they
on the
lined up,
personnel
Danny looked
management.
around and he immediately called a timeout because something wasn't
Yeah, I
right.
think they only had,
I don't know if it's a formation where they didn't want.
I think they maybe only had 9 players. I don't know. We need to look and see. Of
I
course,
don't know.
the announcing was so god awful horrific. They never had a chance to tell us about it. These are guys who tell us that Bauer Sharp's our best player. So
Yeah,
say no more.
that was you joke about, oh, we got the B team on the coverage, and this was like the Z team. They were so bad the whole time. They didn't know what they were talking about most of the time.
They didn't do their research.
And then during replays, they were going off on tangents about something that was completely unrelated to this football game.
Well, and yeah, it was just, yeah, from the announcing to the play we saw, like it was a bad night. I mean, offense, it's back to the same old, same old. Like this has been the story of the entire year. That is what it is. Whatever. Let's move on. Let's hire a new guy. I was disappointed in the defense, though. I mean, like the thing that we pride ourselves on last week after Alabama, we out physicaled Alabama. We looked like a massively deficient physical team tonight. In every phase, outside of a couple of early plays from the defensive line, the thing that really concerns me, and I think it's something that's been kind of shadow exposed throughout the season, the middle of our defense, like whatever we're doing there is not great. Like whenever we're running zone, the middle zone is completely open. Like more times than not, I feel like. And maybe it's because that's just where they're making plays. I don't know. And just one last thing for me, I was just looking at it real quick. This is the most points LSU has scored in conference was against us tonight. Against one of the better defenses in the conference, in my
Does
opinion.
that include the kickoff return?
No.
Yeah, the points scored. I mean,
Good. I mean, yeah, good point scored, but regardless, yeah, if it was without the kickoff return, they'd have 31, so it'd still be one of their top 3 scoring games in the conference.
It's too much.
So it's
even though some of them came
I mean,
late.
they had 2 big passes over the top.
2 big passes, and I mean, like
And Eli
Bowen does all he can on the first one.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I mean, the only thing I thought I could criticize on that is he actually does look back and find the ball. But instead of trying to high point it, he actually goes towards the receiver and instead of trying to high point.
And the second one he just got outrun.
The second one he got outrun, and I think our safety help over the top has been atrocious.
It's been weak.
I mean, it's been bad. Billy's been out of position multiple times, even when he comes down in coverage. RSJ's actually been pretty slow in coverage just in general. So really have to hope like we get some covering safeties. I mean, it's an exploitation that people are taking advantage of.
Yeah, I think the safety deficiency is pretty significant when you're looking for deficiencies there, because those are experienced players with the corners, and maybe Brent would defend the defense and Zach would defend the defense to say the young corners, when Eli's stronger and older and more experienced, he'll know how to play that, and we depend on our corners making those plays.
Eli's the best defensive player we have on the field.
Oh yeah, but I don't know. You need better play out of your safeties, as we've seen. I mean, that really is a difference maker in Brent Venables' defenses historically and most defenses.
And I think Billy kind of played to that level last year, which again, in a lesser league, but was coming up and making plays a lot more often than what we've seen this year. I feel like he's just been more of like a supervisor out there,
right?
As opposed to someone who can lead and go make plays,
right?
And that's what's been frustrating.
He's not the first man to the play, ever.
And we saw him a lot last year, just being that aggressor, like someone who's going and getting the ball, someone who's first in on the tackle or play, or is at least in a pretty large supporting cast role, and it hasn't been there this season.
Do you think with some of these guys on defense, at least, that as the game wears on and the season wears on, the record's bad, the team's goals are escaping them, do they check out a little bit and not do what they need to do in those positions?
It'd be a lot easier to do this year than in years past. I mean, outside of 2022, like my unit is carrying the weight of this team. Danny looked bad tonight. I'll be the first to say, like, missed a couple that he shouldn't have missed, took the wrong angle on a couple of balls that he shouldn't have taken. And like, for someone who's trying to go win the butt kiss, probably not your best performance. But I mean, to your question, I think it's a lot easier to do this season than it is before. However, I don't know. I mean, something I do lean on with Brent is I feel like he has established some culture on that side of the ball to say, our offense sucks, go be the team. And I think they have. I think they've lived up to that.
The tackling was suspect today. I mean, and it wasn't just the middle of the field. It was
everywhere.
Malone taking the wrong.
That
That's
wrong
what
angle
took.
cost
He
us
took
35 yards.
one
on
of the
those.
worst angles I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, when we watched it, I said, oh man, if he'd have taken the right angle, that's 20-yard difference. And then we watched the replay, it was 35-yard difference. If he just takes the right angle,
Yeah.
or just pushes him
Well,
out.
he got caught super flat-footed too, just like play
I
watching.
mean, a couple times.
Like
too.
he just sat there just
Yeah, there was
watching.
some
It's
play
like, oh,
watching going.
yeah.
like maybe you should actually run.
Yeah.
It just didn't look
Kickoff
like.
return was the same thing. Had a lot of guys in position.
Yeah.
You just didn't go make a play.
Yep, didn't make the tackle.
I mean, and after the sack that caused the injury, I mean, the whole first quarter and part of the second, it looked like the defensive line was going to get.
I thought it was going to get better.
They
I
weren't
thought,
finishing, getting the sacks except for a couple times. Obviously, the strip that became a touchdown, and then the injury play.
The pressure was good.
And then after that, it
Or
seemed like the
not
whole
as good.
second half
The
there was
coverage
no
was good.
pressure whatsoever.
Yeah, the coverage.
Yep.
Whatever off LSU's adjustments were, and maybe our lack of adjustments, and just thinking we could just do the same thing. The protection he had was incredible in the second half.
which was bad on two fronts. One is we thought it was going to get better with the defensive pressure and wear the guys down and you're getting to him. And then the other aspect is, well, if you're doing something yourself to adjust, you shouldn't be giving up everything they gave up, over the top plays and some gashing runs. So whatever you adjusted into a weaker result.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like even when they had that backup in, there was a couple of wide open throws he just missed.
Mhm.
Like it was like, man, I guess we're just thinking we can run this base defense and do the same thing. Where, like you said, like you knocked Nussmeier out.
Right.
Attack.
Like,
and that's the thing that I mean,
make him beat you with his arm.
We've been
and attack.
critical with it for the last couple or few weeks. I feel like Brent has been relatively light on the blitzes. Like not a lot of pressure, and maybe even like when he does blitz, something I noticed tonight. Yeah, or Zach. Yeah, you're blitzing the wrong guy. Like you're blitzing Danny Stutzman 8 yards off the line when Danny doesn't get back in the backfield often. Like blitz kid.
I think we're telegraphing our blitzes too, because they would check out of something and then they would have just a quick slant or an out route the screen that would give them the first down.
That can't be, because I think quick routes and any of those audibles, those are illegal.
I don't think that's legal.
Because I noticed our offense, we don't do those ever.
No.
It's astonishing how bad they are.
When you do them for the wrong person.
You throw to the wrong guy, the wrong talent, or the wrong position.
Jacob Jordan.
Yeah.
When you're running Reagan's out to the far sideline for what?
Right.
Why?
I mean, a big part of the problem is with all those wide receivers out, you're not getting separation on your normal passing routes and the tree that we've talked about all season, but also the edge blocking is just not there. And you've relied on Robinson the last couple of games to make, to run people over or to just get through that first tackle and get an extra 5 or 6 yards. And then once he went out today, and you got Sawchuk back there, then you got Franklin back there. Outside of Franklin's that last big run he had, your wide receivers just aren't doing the job because they're not big enough for it. They're too young to be good at it, or what. But you're out your top 6 receivers.
But then it begs the question: why are we going towards that? Like, why is that even? And I know we're not running that play because I'm complaining about it, but it's just we ran stuff tonight where didn't see a remote version of it last week.
Yeah.
And what happened last week? Whatever we did worked.
Right, it worked.
It's just, and it's something like as simple as, why are you bringing Xavier Robinson in from the slot on motion to run a draw play?
Yeah.
Like, let him sit back, see the coverage, and run his run. It's just like, we try to get cute with the stuff we don't need to get cute with. That's the thing about Alabama, is like nothing we did was revolutionary. It was rudimentary.
Which is what I would wanting us to do.
Yes.
For 5 or 6 games, just like the season's done, you know where we are. Just go base.
Well, go look at the first drive that we had.
Yeah.
Like nothing that we had seen last week that worked. That was a repetition last week. I feel from the first drive to the last drive, we were running an offense. This week it's like, all right, we're gonna try this, this, and this. LSU has the worst run covering defense in the conference.
Yeah,
the worst one. And it's like, all right, we're gonna go. I think we went pass run or something like that, and so just some weird like power toss to Robinson that didn't work. it's just, and that from the get-go, it's like, all right, well, I guess we're abandoning stuff. We're just going game by game as opposed to establishing stuff.
I got the feeling we were outthinking ourselves and from probably Monday on and just
We're a
saying,
6-5 team.
we can't do what we did against Alabama because they'll have figured it out. So we have to do these other things.
You're a 6-5 team. You do it works.
We do what works. One of Jay's points, he sent his points in. He wasn't able to join us. He said the entire offense is trash. Can't really dispute that. And obviously the injuries and the young players and the lower depth chart players are going to be a factor there, but the scheme is a factor. Another factor is Jackson Arnold. I'm sorry, but the guy just doesn't look like he's in the right level of football. He stares down defenders running at him. He
Stares down blitzes running at him.
stares down the blitzes. He doesn't look around to see what's going on. He waits until guys are wide open, and by then the safety's coming over and almost intercepting the ball. The poor guy looks broken. He looks absolutely
what happened
broken.
between the Arizona game last year where he threw for 400 yards? He made dumb freshman mistakes on a couple of passes, but he wasn't afraid to throw it downfield. He was scrambling and avoiding sacks and getting the 7 or 8 yard gains.
And nimbly
But that's-
avoiding sacks.
And
Like
then this year he gets hit to
Yeah.
start the season against Tennessee and looks ridiculously bad. And then from there on, he's not going to throw the ball downfield.
But that's what made him good at
Other than
Arizona.
and he
He
doesn't
was
know how to avoid a guy running at him. Like the play's not dead just because they broke the line of scrimmage.
exactly extend the play, make the throw.
Yeah.
But he
did it last week.
But that's the thing. To an extent.
Occasionally.
I mean, he had 25 carries and 7 or 8 of those were scrambles.
Yeah,
No,
but
I know.
no,
He did the
running's
scrambling
fine.
part well.
He can't throw the
But
ball.
like
Oh,
if
he's on
it's
the
a
run.
route based,
None of the
Right.
receivers are open. They
Either,
just, they
either
throw
throw on the
numbers.
run or throw somebody. Yeah, that's probably true.
but throw someone open, like you're about to say. Like I do think that is possible. On one blitz, he had Reagan tonight running over the top. Already had beat their safety. Jackson Arnold staring directly into the faces of the defenders in front. And I know they're there, but that's what makes a good dual threat quarterback. I think that's what we're really trying to define. Is like dual threat means I know when to run and I can use my legs to do it, which I think he's actually done pretty well. But I also think he leans on that part of the game way too often. Like dual threat means I can make plays with my legs to make a pass.
Yeah.
It's not just make plays with my legs and then make a pass when it's convenient, because that's what it is at this point for Jackson. It's convenient. Like if the pocket presence is what it's supposed to be for 90% of the play, he's going to probably make a throw, and it's going to be a decent throw. But outside of that, it's like, dude, you have to work with what you have. You know your line's not good. You got to get the ball out.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get the ball out.
Just think it through. How do I get the ball out fast? Where can I get the ball out fast?
And some of those stretches that he runs, it's like
Yeah.
there's supposed to be a route in front of him.
And
I don't
he
know if it's a design QB stretch where he's supposed to go and he's just
Nobody
waiting
said.
too long, or if it's a stretch option where you're supposed to have routes. We're not running routes in front of him. Sawchuck ran parallel with him. We had another receiver running pretty parallel with him. It was like, I guess I'm going to try to break into the second level. Didn't happen. It's just so messed up.
I just
so
can't tell.
backwards.
I'd love to get an honest explanation. Is it because our receiving core is so weak, or is it because of play design, or is it because Jackson Arnold just doesn't know how to see people? He doesn't seem to know when and how to step up in the pocket. Like you look at football and so many quarterbacks, and not just the great ones, they navigate away from the pressure to still make a throw. And he never does that. It's as bad as Landry Jones's first season where he's running backwards 15 yards every
It's
time.
absolutely what it looks like. Except Jackson thinks he can run laterally and
But
gets
he
to the
can't.
edge. He can, but it's
But not enough.
when you're
he's not
supposed to.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, when he's supposed to pass and he decides to scramble,
Right.
and he definitely has to get out of the pocket to do it. That's usually for nothing,
So
nothing or
I
negative.
just think the guy,
He
he's
doesn't
got
see
raw
it.
talent and he's got a lot of work to do. What disappointed me in the coaching regarding the quarterback was beyond just the lack of preparation and a game plan or adjustments to win with Jackson. Once it was obvious what we were going to do and where we were going to have success, you can make an argument Hawkins comes in the second quarter, but definitely in the second half. At some point, you got to pull him and just give a chance to say it's still a 2-score game. Let's see if this can work. And they never, for whatever reason. Now, I don't know.
We didn't do the Tennessee.
Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe we know Hawkins is gone and Arnold has a chance. and they're rewarding a guy who hasn't checked out on the program. Maybe they're signaling just their loyalty to a guy, and they feel like that is a better signal than what they would be doing by replacing him with Hawkins. You mentioned Casey Thompson at the top of the pod, Lucas. Why didn't he get a shot? At least at the end, 6 minutes to go, or whenever it was, 5 minutes. Let him go.
Let him go out.
Let him go out and hand the ball off. You know,
Yeah.
let him play. Run, pass. The game's truly lost at that point. I don't know. It's very confusing. Almost like there's some weird politics going on.
It's not
behind
even,
the
it's not,
scenes.
but it's not even weird at this point. Like it's obvious politics.
I
I
think
guess,
Hawkins is
but to what
staying,
end?
Yeah.
and there's a chance Jackson stays, and that's why they didn't make the change in the fourth
I
quarter.
think Hawkins is done.
No, I think Hawkins is staying,
Gotcha.
but I think they're trying to hold on to Jackson also.
Okay, I could see that.
And that is why they didn't replace it. 'Cause I think if they'd brought Hawkins in the fourth quarter, Jackson's 100% going.
Yeah.
But maybe they've kind of
Well, I
nuanced
think
this
that's a
to
BS
where
reason.
they're gonna keep them, but they're trying to keep them both.
That's bullshit. Then,
Huh?
if that's the case, because we're trying to win a game, win the damn game, get a guy in there who might have a chance to win the game. And if we lose Jackson Arnold, how bad is that
But
really?
especially when the game's winnable.
Yeah, when it's winnable.
Like it's 2 scores early in the fourth. There's a lot of time that you have to make up. And Jackson, like, I'll give him a lot of props for the runs he made. Like he showed some guts, but at the same time, it's like, dude, like this is it. Like this is all
Hawkins might have housed a couple of
yeah,
those.
that too.
Well,
So-
what else is strange is, last week we saw a lot more zone read, and
Yeah.
early in the season, it didn't look like Jackson was good at running it. But Missouri, he got a little bit better at it. And then Bama, he looked like he
Yeah.
was in full control of being able to run zone read.
I agree.
So let's not run hardly any of it today.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Like I said, once Robinson went out, it was like, well, we are screwed. The one guy that can pick up yards,
Against the
and he
a
had,
team fairly
10
weak
carries
against the
for
run.
20 yards. He had 2 yards of carry. I mean, that's bad.
It's so bad.
On a guy that was averaging 6 yards of carry the last couple of
Yeah, it
games.
was bad. Yeah, it was.
It's really frustrating. So, do you think that before we get to some bigger questions, let me just make sure we don't forget this, because we noticed it and we're frustrated. Penalties in the game. It took till nearly the end of the game before we got an offensive holding on LSU, and it was on a running back. There were numerous times, especially early in the game when it was critical, that it sure looked like blatant holding didn't get called.
Yep.
We had a pass interference on the great catch that they went back and reviewed for an hour and a half to make sure he caught the ball, which is obvious he caught the ball, and never any
What else was
mention of-
obvious was that
it was completely
pass
pass
interfered.
interfered with.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
don't know.
how that
Was
got
it just a
missed.
bad crew, or are we just seeing things? What's going on there?
I don't know. I mean, the ref wasn't even good enough to stay in the game because he's too fragile.
That's
apparently.
true. That's true.
So apparently we got the Z crew on the call for the announcers, and we got the worst of the SEC crew again.
It's pretty rough. And when you're a team that is as marginal as OU is, every little bit helps and hurts, and getting officiating that doesn't go your way like that hurts. And I'm not asking for anything but the fairness, and it just looks to me like we're not getting calls that are obvious calls that should be made. So bigger questions. Do we think an offensive coordinator will be named before the midweek pod on
Yes,
Wednesday?
I do.
Yeah, I did too.
I do too. I think it's coming imminently, and
By Tuesday, the latest.
there's some politics that are helpful there, some PR, and that's for Brent Venables to keep the crowd.
Good.
So you don't lose everybody. You just got to give them hope, and the hope is low. We're obviously going to get a bowl berth come next Sunday, but that's a long time to wait. We need something to hold on to in the meantime. So I think they will. I feel like it's got to be coming really close, and a few comments they made sort of indicate that. Do you think one of Jay's comments was he doesn't care if all the offensive coaches are gone? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Would you guys be surprised or disappointed if some of the offensive coaches are retained, given what we've seen now with the full season done?
I wouldn't be surprised if Emmett Jones stays because it seems like he's a good recruiter.
And we really haven't seen the test.
You couldn't see what he could do this year when he had 5 guys
He
out
injures lots of
for
players.
the majority of the season. So you really can't tell what the route running is going to look like. You know, we definitely miss having a bigger body receiver out there.
Yeah.
You know, if we would have just had one of Anderson or Gibson, I think it changes the entire season based on being able to throw the ball up
Throw it
for
again.
grabs a little
Yeah,
bit
just
when you
throw it
need to,
again.
50-50 balls. When you can't do that when all your receivers are just little dudes that are kind of quick.
Yeah.
So the DeMarco recruiting has been, I mean, Robinson's really good. Tatum, I think outside the fumbles can be really good. After that, I mean,
He's had a good track record longer than that for recruiting.
Yeah.
We have debated and been in arguments about his rotations
Right.
almost from the start. If you
Yeah.
remember, we had a pretty heated argument about trying to figure out what the hell was going on in 2021 with
Yep.
that running back
Yeah.
rotation. And was there a logic to it? And I think now we can realize whatever it was, there was no logic. Anyone who was trying to think there was a scheme, and both of us on both sides of the debate were trying to come up with our own theory as to what he was doing. I think there's no theory. There's just no rhyme or reason to what he's coming up, or it has nothing to do with football.
No, yeah.
And you can't keep Bill just for Fasusi and Vojay. You can't. I mean, we've had 5 stars come through here and not pan out. Like the kid from Southmore, I can't think of his name.
Bray Walker.
Bray Walker. He was a 5-star. He's didn't even end up playing anywhere. He went transferred somewhere else and still didn't play. So you can't base him getting extra years on the job just based on 1 or 2 kids that may or may not work out.
I would agree. I agree all around. I wouldn't be super surprised if Jones keeps his job or disappointed. I wouldn't be super surprised or disappointed if Bill keeps his job, but I want a clear signal that the offensive coordinator wants that.
Yeah.
I want that in all cases, to tell you the truth. I would be somewhat pretty darn surprised if Joe John Finley keeps his job in like a job here.
Yeah.
Definitely it's not going to be a co-OC. That would I don't think there's any way I could rationalize that one.
No.
If he keeps his job, I could give you some benefit of the doubt, but you're already in a realm where I'm doubting you. Other than that, I mean, I guess Kevin Johns, if you want to call him a quarterback coach at this point, I don't know about that, but I would like to see a clean break. I'd like to see somebody that comes in with a couple, 3 guys and really revolutionizes everything on that side of the ball. Just a blank slate. Let's get it clean and get it new.
Yeah.
Because
No, I think so too.
It's been such a mess.
Yeah. But I think so too. I mean, Steve, I pretty holistically agree with everything you said. Not going to be surprised like with any retainments outside of. I mean, I would be surprised and disappointed with Joe John unless it's some sort of like we talked about before, like demotionary role where he's just a tight ends coach or.
I don't want him as tight end coach.
I don't disagree. I don't
What
disagree with that
has shown
either.
in that position in the last 5 years has done anything.
Yeah. So I mean, he's probably the only one, I guess. But like you said, like that all comes to caveat. As long as the OC's okay with it.
Yeah,
Right.
let him do whatever
This
he
is
wants.
what he wants.
Right.
That's fine. And I think he probably keeps a couple guys. Like, I think your 2 big guys are DeMarco and Edmond, honestly, because you have the recruiting.
Right.
You've got the track record with recruiting. You can figure out how to tailor their coaching ability or rotations or whatever else. Great. Bill, like you said, it's like sometimes he looks like he's on recruiting, but he doesn't. He hasn't.
Could
So-
DeMarco transition to a different position? Or could he, I mean, you don't play analyst that much, but could you create a new model where he's basically a recruiting guy?
Yeah, like the
And-
coordinator for offensive skill players. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
and use his
Yeah.
recruiting skills and put him on the sidelines out there. Literally, not literally, but figuratively on the sidelines, no pun intended or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of making game time decisions. I don't know. Maybe there's something like that where you accentuate and grab onto what's good and don't package it with what he's been so poor at. If they can even see that, hopefully a good OC coming in can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
One of the things somebody can see is when you go and look for good value, you go to Tobacco Exchange. And that's a longtime sponsor of the post game. Great locations throughout the metro area. Moore, Oklahoma City, Edmond. What are we smoking tonight, Lucas?
Tonight we've got an LFD Solus. I've never had this before. I've had lots of LFDs in the past. I really like
Yeah.
they have a box press, like I think it's called a Limtada 2 or something like that. And those are delicious.
Yeah.
this is the first one of these I've had, and I started it midway through the fourth quarter because it was a big smoke, and I was hoping this podcast wouldn't go very long because of how angry I am. So I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, and it's been really good so far.
Yeah,
It's been really
smoke.
good smoke,
Really
and yeah, it's lasted an appropriate amount of time. I would agree. So thanks to Tobacco Exchange for their longtime patronage. So with the OC naming coming at some point soon, does it accelerate it any? Does it play into it any with some of the other potential openings that are out there? We saw that Gus Maison got the OC job at Florida State. That was official, right? And
I mean, it's reported
okay,
he's resigning from
kind of as
from
official as
UCF
could
to
be.
go be the offense coordinator.
We have some openings that are rumored in different places. I guess West Virginia might be canning their coach. So that's a head coaching job if a guy wants that versus OC at OU.
Yep.
North Carolina's open.
North Carolina is going to be open. Oklahoma State might be open. Gundy might be done. That'd be a head coaching job.
Ohio State,
both
depending
of
on how
The other
playoff
OSU,
goes.
the Ohio State might be done.
Lost
Now
to
that's
Michigan for the
obviously
fourth
you're not
straight.
going to get a guy at OC who can get the head coaching job
Right.
at Ohio
But it'd be a
State.
domino scenario.
Now it would be, and it might open a guy up who you could otherwise wouldn't be getting because of the domino of his head coach leaves or something. I don't know. It would be awful to get a guy. He's named. Ohio State goes and gets beat in the first round, and then he goes and takes that job.
Yeah.
That would be pretty rough. But that's about the only really bad case scenario I can see. I guess I just have a lot of faith that they're going to get somebody I can believe in. And then if it doesn't work out, we got to start looking at the fact that it's just a Venables problem.
Yep.
I just, it's not going to be somebody we don't have a lot of excitement about, right? Just because they're going to have a track record, they're going to have something that
You're saying we're going to be excited no matter what?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
You think we're going to get an OC that you're going to shake your head at?
I think we might get a guy that we don't have enough tape on. Like, we talked about Arbuckle. He was a high school coach 3 years ago. Craddock, he's been an OC a couple years.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen a name out there that I'm like, oh boy, I really hope we get this guy because
Well, no, I agree with that.
When we
I
got
agree with
Lincoln
that.
Riley, we were like, okay, we got this guy from ECU.
Okay, yeah.
He's putting up big numbers. Are we excited about him going into the season? No, because we didn't know enough about him.
No, I
So,
agree with that.
I don't see
But I
us-
wasn't disappointed. I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe we got him.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be
I
the
think
case.
somewhere in the middle.
But I don't think we're gonna get a guy and be like, heck yeah, we got so and so. I'm really
Yeah, I don't
excited
either.
about the
I
kind
don't
of
think
football.
because
they
I don't
play.
think that guy's out there.
Yeah,
or,
I don't either.
Or
I don't
would
think
be
there's
as a
an
candidate.
established guy out there that I'm excited about. That
Right.
would take the.
But I didn't say excited. I don't think there'll be a guy that we're totally disappointed. So it's not the extreme of tremendous excitement. It's also not the extreme of, oh my God, I can't believe, like Joe John Finley or
Yeah.
something. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
So we'll have an off season of hope coming in. There might be a lot to prove.
Tempered
Yeah,
hope.
tempered hope, realistic hope, realistic hope. Do you think, let's talk about the two OSUs. Do you think that those guys will lose their job? One or
I
both?
mean,
And should they?
I think Mike Gundy has been the best coach in the Oklahoma State history.
That's
it's-
almost unarguable.
You can't argue that. But it seems like the last 3 or 4 years, he has not cared at all about recruiting. He just says essentially, well, we can't go get the same guys that OU and Ohio State and Bama are getting, so we're going to try to get 2 tiers below that. Essentially, what it seems like
We quit. We're
he's like,
done.
let's get the 3 stars. We're not even going to make an attempt to get
Yeah.
a 4-star.
Yeah.
And then his attitude all season long of just, loss after loss after loss, and then not making a move at the coordinator positions
Mhm.
that have been horrific. He's made the choice to go get guys from, where would yours just come from?
Oh,
It wasn't Youngstown. It was like,
no, he's lower division, it's like
Yeah.
Division 3.
it was Division 3, and he went and got him because he was tired of getting good coordinators that would come in
That would
for
leave.
a year or two.
The exact opposite of what you should
Yeah.
be going for.
He's like, I got Dana Holgerson. Oh, he went to West Virginia, and then I got this guy, and he went here. And that's not
No.
at that school. You have to take the best person available, whether they can be there 2 years or 3 years.
Basically, you're saying, I don't want to have the Nick Saban model.
Yeah.
Like,
mean-
why would that be bad?
It's crazy.
He's obstinate. He's been obstinate to NIL,
Yep.
to transfer portal, to so many pro player things, like things that are promotional or good to the player.
They had 20
He's
returning starters
out of
on a
touch.
team.
Yeah, 85% of their offensive production comes back.
They went to the Big 12 championship game and lost to Texas last
They
year.
are 0-9 in the conference.
And they're 0-9.
I mean, it's just that's you
And
can't.
and he
beat this
doesn't
guy.
seem that upset about it.
No, that's the other thing. He seemed actually. Well, I mean, we see the clips.
Yeah.
The things he says about the fans that are criticizing him and everything. It's like, why don't you just write your exit right now?
Yeah.
And does he just want the buyout? Is he trying to get the buyout? I don't know. But if I'm an Oklahoma State fan, if I'm a supporter of that program, I would want him out for sure at this point.
And I have lots of Oklahoma State friends that for the last 2 years have been saying that. And I think this season has just done them in completely where they're acting like they're not going to support the program.
Yeah,
They're not going to go to games next year if he's
Yep.
still the coach.
I
You
get
know,
the same vibe.
It's
Yeah.
not just they want new coordinators on both sides of the ball. They
Right.
want a complete regime change.
I feel that too, and it's been like 2 out of 3, and now it's like 3 out of 4 of the wide variety of Oklahoma State fans that I know that's their sentiment. So I'll be real surprised if that isn't true beyond the bubbles that we live in.
Yeah.
And actually a change is made. That'll be interesting to see because that could domino one way or the other. It could be something that is, it's one thing to say the Ohio State position comes open. You're not going to, like I said, get that guy. But you also, the West Virginia guy, you should be able to make a case that the offensive coordinator job at Oklahoma is as good as the head coaching job at West Virginia. If you want to be a head coach and that's your route to it, that's one thing. But you might be 2 years or 3 years and done, and hillbilly land up there. It's just like that could be a dead end that goes nowhere. But if you make it here, you could springboard into that next.
And we've
move.
seen it 2 years in a row now. You had Chip Kelly step down from UCLA to take the Ohio State OC. And now you've got Gus Malzahn leaving UCF to take the Florida State OC.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to be, it seems like some of these guys in the NIL area, and I can't blame them.
Yeah.
That they don't want to run a program because it's too
tough.
much.
It's different.
There's
Yeah.
so much going on between the new scholarship stuff
Oh yeah.
and the parity in college football and how tough some of these conferences are.
Right.
That why would you want to run a whole program when you can just be on one side of the ball and recruit just the offensive guys, get your quarterback in there, let your wide receivers coach and running back coach go get those guys, and you've got a lot less to worry about as opposed to being the CEO of everything.
Yeah.
So
Well-
that might be in the next 5 years, you might see a ton of that going.
Now, what I'm worried about though with the Oklahoma State position is if you're trying to convince a guy to come to Oklahoma, that has maybe he's from Southern California or wherever, and he's not wanting to come to Oklahoma. Whereas the West Virginia game isn't going to, or West Virginia job is not going to be something that is equivalent to Oklahoma. I guess that's maybe a bad
Maybe like
example.
seeing couches burn.
But yeah, I mean, if the I don't know, there's not another program open to say, but if I don't know,
North Carolina.
if a South Florida job were open, you'd say you could go be in South Florida and live and your family live in South Florida, or you can come to Oklahoma. He's like, Oklahoma. And then the Oklahoma State head coaching job comes open and you're a candidate Brit, you take that job over the Oklahoma job. Because it's like, well, if I'm going to go to Oklahoma, I might as well be the head coach somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
So there's maybe a little bit of concern there. I don't know. But we may be really close to our guy, and it just might be a done deal.
Yeah.
I have gotten the feeling over the last week or so that we probably are in that position. That was my prediction in the last midweek pod. So we'll see.
Yep.
So I guess, we'll try to be as timely as we can with that announcement and have our input on it. It might time out real nicely with the midweek pod.
Right.
See if we need to do an emergency pod if Cal Gundy gets named offensive coordinator at Oklahoma.
I think that ship has sailed,
Yeah, I think so too.
unfortunately.
We'll do an emergency pod for that though.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an emergency pod for that. Well, anything else to cover about this game? It's rough that the season's over, but it's also kind of refreshing that the season's over. It's been a long, crazy season, most of it painful. Has had its highlights and good moments. We've had a good time.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
I had a good time. I mean, other than the game outcome.
Just with
several
you,
days.
just with you guys.
Yeah.
I want
mean,
to talk about the final drive.
well, let's talk about the
Well,
final,
talk about the final
drive
drive of the half
for
as
the
well.
yeah, let's talk about final
Yeah.
drives. That's
So
great.
final drive of the half, you get the ball back with, how was it, 50-ish seconds?
45.
45 seconds. You got 2 timeouts.
They have none.
They have none. So you're not in the situation where if you threw 2 passes incomplete, then on that 3rd down, you could just run the ball and let the clock run out and go, and you take a couple shots for the sideline. You've got a field goal kicker that even though he couldn't kick it to the end zone apparently on the kickoffs,
He's
but
kicking.
he can make a 52, 54 yarder. So instead of taking a couple shots towards a sideline or even something deep over the middle and then running up and calling a timeout because you've got 2, you hand the ball off for 2 yards and then you just let the time expire. We criticized Mike Gundy multiple bedlams in a row of him doing that before half. You know, when they're down by 20 points of him just quitting.
We criticized Mac Brown for
Yeah.
doing that with Chris Sampson. Didn't throw it out from the 50-yard.
And it's unbelievable that you didn't at least make an effort on the 1st and 2nd down to try to get a couple chunk plays to
see
get
what
in
could
field goal
happen.
range.
To see what could happen.
So that really irritated me. But the end of the game, I realize you're down by 20. It's 37-17. You get the late hit out of bounds. That was its final drive, right?
Second to last.
Well, that
next
was-
last. Okay. When
you
they
sure?
hit Jackson Owen out of bounds. Okay.
Yeah, because Jackson ended up fumbling.
But so you hand the ball off a couple times, and then Franklin gets the long run.
Well, we got the ball back with more than 2 minutes to go, didn't we?
I think they kicked the field goal after the 2-minute warning.
No, because didn't we
Did they kick the
run?
field goal?
We ran a play. Yeah, we ran a play, and you criticized that we would run a play. We didn't run the play before the 2 minute
Yeah,
warning.
that's right. We had the ball. It was like
Right.
it was like
So we played
2:13
that right.
and
We thought we weren't, but we
Yeah.
played that right. But we have the ball on the, what were we on, the 25-yard line with
Ish.
2 minutes to play.
And you hand the ball off a couple times, and then it's 3rd and whatever, and then Franklin busts off on the run
Yeah.
for 34 yards. You're on their side of the field. You've got 2 timeouts left, and there's 25 seconds left or so.
And we used one.
And then instead of trying to score just to make the loss
Respectable.
more respectable, you just don't. You didn't even bother.
Mm-mm.
And
Even when they made, well, I guess Franklin right at the end gets to the 2-yard line,
yeah,
and time expires.
and you still have a timeout.
because you didn't do any of the things you could have
Yeah.
done in actually preserving some clock. They weren't giving a half-hearted effort to stop you.
No.
It wasn't like they probably had backups in, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's not like they're trying to preserve a shutout. You've got a pretty good shot. Obviously, we got down there with just running rudimentary plays. We could have scored a touchdown. Again, you're not going to win the game.
Yeah.
It's going to look better for pride.
And it makes us feel better.
It makes us feel better, damn it.
And I made a comparison to the movie Fever Pitch when Jimmy Fallon character and his friends are in the bar, and in the back you've got Johnny Damon and
Trot Nixon.
Veritek, I think. They're sitting there eating steak, having a good laugh after they just lost to the Yankees in game 3 to go down 3-0. And they're sitting at the bar just completely dejected at their team. They look over there and see that. And one of the guys gets really mad. He's like, yeah, screw those guys. They don't even care, whatever. And then Fallon's like, well, they're just, it's just a job for them, blah, blah, blah. Why do we take it so personal? That we get so excited about this and they don't even care. And that's how I felt at the end of this game. Like, I know the coaches and players care, but I don't think they care as much as we do.
Yeah.
And they do all the hard work. I know practice sucks. I know lifting sucks. I know all the training and stuff sucks. And we just pay our money and we sit in the stands and we watch the games and we rewatch games and we do a podcast. But it hurts to feel like we have more heart involved with this school than the guys out there playing the game.
And not so
And
much
coaching.
playing the game, coaching the
Coaching.
game, because they're making the decision. So now the point of that scene is that they do care about it, but maybe as fans you
We
get
care too
overly
much.
invested.
Yeah.
But also that they have to take it differently because if they get as dejected and down, they'll never be up for the next game, right?
Right.
So I love the fact that you're predicting we're going to win the equivalent of the World Series next. So we're going to win the national
It's too
championship
late.
in 2025. I love it. I think that's awesome. But there is an element of that where you're just not. I don't know. It'd be one thing if you were going for it on 4th down on your own 5-yard line, down 20. That's dumb. Yeah. But you actually had a chance to score. Go ahead and go down and score.
Yeah.
Get that
Use your
score.
timeout.
Get it for your players. Get it for the guys. There's some guys that was their. I mean, that was their final OU series because they'll set out or they won't. You know, I mean, I guess there may be some in the bowl game, but they'd be on defense if they're sitting out probably because that's where the stars are. But
Yeah.
regardless, that's going to be one of their last times to be an OU football player, and that's true of also guys that are going to transfer and everything, but also for the fans. I think there's something to what
And
you're
I
saying.
criticized Gus Malzahn doing this at Auburn when we played them in the Sugar Bowl,
Right.
and we were stomping them, and he used all 3 timeouts in the last 15 seconds or
Yes, he
something like
did.
that
Yep.
to get points on the board so it didn't look as bad.
Yep.
Right.
And I didn't like it because I was on the other side of it.
Yeah, because
I was like-
it felt bad. I
Yeah.
mean, for the same reason
I'm
that
like,
you want the
I'd
touchdown.
rather see the score where that's winning by
you want a
21
margin.
than 14 or
Margin
whatever.
matters. Yes.
And then today we're on the other side of it, and I'm mad that our coaches didn't try to score at the end of the game
I agree with you. I found that frustrating.
just for a better showing.
Just for a better showing. Like, I guess it's a signal that you're done and you're ready to move on, but you're going to take the bowl bid and you're going to go out there.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to forfeit. So,
Right.
why do you kind of? I mean, they ran plays, but I don't know. I guess in their defense, also, it's kind of tough. You're dealing with what you're dealing, and the only thing you can do is call timeout. You don't want to confuse Joe John Finley any more than he's already confused to not know what he's supposed to be doing. I don't know, but it was kind of a small microcosm of the frustration and the ineptitude of this entire season offensively.
Yep.
All in one drive. You get so close, you can't score. You're doing it with backups because, you know, you're on your 4th, 5th string running back, whatever Franklin is at this point. That's frustrating.
Yep.
It's really frustrating. Been a frustrating season. But, you know, it takes the frustrating ones to appreciate the really good ones. So maybe this is setting us up for appreciation for down the road.
I doubt it.
You doubt
Need
it. Okay.
think
No,
we
you're
get
just a pessimist.
We'll get there.
You're just totally sold on we're never going to be good. We're going to be better. I believe. Well, we're going to be back to cover how we're going to be better and how the new OC is going to bring us to the promised land and get our hopes up and all of that on the midweek. And we'll have Jay back hopefully for that.
Go get some Little Debbie's.
Get some Little Debbie's, guys. Eat those Little Debbie's and just, you know,
Christmas trees are almost gone.
you better get.
Yeah,
You're not going to have any more,
Get your trees.
Probably about 2 weeks left of Christmas tree season, and then they'll be gone. So
guys.
if you want it, you better
Easter
go get them now.
Easter season coming. All right. Well, and tell all of that, Boomer.
Sooner.